a little bit of disturbance on the line, but that is understandable. Please carry on with your presentation, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. I think I have a problem to present the presentation, but later on I will share it with you through a chat or through a moderator. But anyway, I will continue on my presentation. Actually, we are talking about democracy since yesterday. And from the notions of classical theory of democracy, we can see that the meaning of democracy is as a source of state authority, where power of the people are really the main source of power. Democracy is the purpose of government. Uh, Therefore, the common good of democracy will be based to run the government. Democracy is a method of choosing political leaders. Therefore, we have and we already have hosting the election. Therefore, the choosing political leader is by the people. I was reminded by Abraham Lincoln said that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. This is the definitions of democracy in general. Also, Lincoln said that this country, with its institution, belongs to the people who inhabit it. Whenever they shall grow weary of the existing government, they can exercise their constitution right of amending it, or their revolutionary right to dismember or overthrow it. Therefore, we come into the definitions of range of democracy. We can have a maximal definitions of democracy that already been told by Professor Roy before on social democracy. We also can have middle range definitions of democracy where we actually acknowledge freedom, equality, control. And we could also have a very minimal definitions of democracy where we only have electoral democracy. Those democracy definition is very important anyway to us. I also quote from International Idea 2005. It says that the living concept of democracy is five, as in the following. First, democratization is a process that requires time and patience. Second, democracy is not achieved through elections alone. And then the third, democracy practices can be compared but not prescribed. Fourth, democracy is built from within society. And then the fifth, democracy cannot be imported or exported but supported. And then we also have to think about political backdrops of the implementations of democracy in our country. Every country has different political backdrop. However, from my reading, I think we all agree that democracy continues to expand. However, there are also some indications of erosion of the popular trust caused by corruption cases, maybe also happening in our country, and inability to manage the governance. The third, there is also indications of democracy rollbacks. And then the fourth, shrinking of civic space. The fifth, emerging ICTs and democracy. So today I will going to say on how we could assess the quality of democracy. The framework of assessment, we could have democracy index. I think someone already told us and discussed with us yesterday session. And there will be, in assessing the quality of democracy, we need to know about the fundamental democratic principle, its mediating value, and the assessment itself. Larry Diamond said that democracy is where political system able to elect and replace government through free and fair election. And then there should be active participations of the people. There should be protections of human rights, and there should be law enforcement and equality for everyone. And then actually in assessing the democracy, we could use the Handbook of Democracy, Handbook of Democracy Assessment. It is published by International IDEA. We could also use Democracy Index that published by Intelligent Economics Unit based in London. We could use the Democracy Index parameter where there are at least 4 things. One is electoral process and pluralism. Second, functioning of government. Third, political participation. Fourth, civic liberties. And then in framework of democracy assessment, we could also have a compilations of manuscript on the best practices democracy in our region. We could have country per country analysis, or we could have a thematic analysis. Other thing that we could have for assessing democracy is having a comparative study on democracy. We could also have a training manuals. Training manuals can be used to increase the ability of implementing democracy in our country. So, rethinking of the parameters. Robert Dahl says that he was saying of 5 pillars of democracy, in which first is inclusions of all adults. And then the second one is control of agenda. The third is enlightened understanding. Therefore, it needs a well-informed society. And then there will be a question, what if the available information dominated by hoax? And then there should be effective participation, and there should be voting equality. From his theory, Bob Dahl saying that having periodic election is not enough. It must be examined on their quality of implementing the democracy. Then challenges to democracy. I know that some democracy already been settled in our country, but there are also new democracy where sometimes weak and fragile. But all democracy also facing rollbacks and facing so many challenges. The elected democratic government is sometimes struggling to guarantee equitable and sustainable economic and social development as well. I think this has been discussed since yesterday. And challenges to democracy, other challenges of democracy is failure of some democratically elected government on addressing issue of corruption. I think someone already asked about corruption case. Gender equality, yesterday someone also talked about gender equality, economic equality, unemployment, and other social and political problems. I think include whether or not the multicultural country becoming asset or liabilities. Maybe it could be asset where we know that we could actually exercising the protections of right of the minorities and also everyone. But it could be also liabilities when pluralism is exists, but in order to against each other. So there will be one side is good thing of plurality, one other side is bad thing of plurality. Indonesia, India, and maybe Bangladesh, and also in other country in Maldives, I think we have a similar situation where multicultural pluralism is exists in our country. The mediating value, we can say that in our country, we should have political laws and processes that facilitating the electoral process. And then it will be the mediating value we use to connect with what sustainable development goals are expected, especially SDG number 16, in which it is said that promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Therefore, from SDG number 16, I can put it here, SDG number 16.1, it will be on reducing violence. So I think our country trying to reduce the violence, and some countries still have the violence affected by armed conflict or communal conflict or political event related violence. On SDG 16.3, we have rule of law. I think our discussion yesterday and also today, we are thinking about how we could enforce rule of law in our country. SDG 16.6, we have effective institution. SDG 16.7, inclusive decision making, where there is also indication of declining in doing clean election and electoral participation. Especially during COVID-19 pandemic, we do have a sort of challenges. If you hosting the election during this pandemic time, so many people saying that it could be affecting to electoral participation. And then SDG 16.10, it is on freedom of expression. In doing the election during pandemic, actually there is a Kofi Annan open letter to endorse that you could have election during pandemic, but you have to comply with health procedure to avoid COVID-19 uh, from spreading. And on political participation, we could have a positive or negative political participation. On political participation, we always think about universal suffrage, where everyone who adult entitled to have the right to exercise their political right. It is also on inclusiveness, how our election laws, how our country can guarantee the inclusiveness of the people to exercise their political rights. However, in many countries, they have experiences the following categories. First, on loyalist voters, there will be some headliners or populist group where they are trying to do their own way. Some also experience undecided voters, where in this case, we try to have more modalities of knowledge towards them. And if we are not doing the good way, sometimes they are turned to be non-voting groups. And then we also we wish we could harvest more on rational voters, where they will decide to vote based on their knowledge and rational consideration. On freedom of expression, we actually has to obey that there should be absence of violence, and there should be turn back hoax mechanism. In my country, we are having civil society engaged to turn back hoax, and also we are having coordination and cooperation with Google and Facebook to turn back hoax that emerge in their Google platform or Facebook platform. We also have to have against black campaign, where this is also trying to reduce the just and free and fair election process. And in this case, in my country, and I think in every country, we have to hopefully we could avoid mobilize a movement, mobilize participation. Because if it is not genuine one, then we will harvest more difficulties later on. On the quality of democracy, it will be determined by first the election management body. The second will be also determined by the political party, how they could recruit and select their candidates. This is also important. The third will be based on the society, the voters, how they could avoid money politics. This is a big question in my country. And then the degree of the genuine voter turnout should be an ultimate effort, ultimate gain of our election commission. Therefore, it should be avoiding mobilized voters. The absence of money politics in all forms. These days, when we are facing COVID-19 pandemic, and we will going to have local election that will be done by the end of by 9th of December this year. We are trying to reduce the money politics that being used to buy the vote. Um, it is we are assumed that it is against ethic code of political party, and it may lead to corruption because sometimes they are trying to gain more rewards during the time when they are in power, and they are trying to get more access towards capital. Therefore, I think I do agree to Professor Sanjay mentioned earlier on that there is a nexus between politics and capital. In this case, we can analyze on money politics and the existence of electoral fraud by access of capital. And in many countries, I think in also in my countries, we try to avoid political dynasty. Therefore, we really ask political party to have a really good in selecting the candidates. Therefore, we can elect them based on their performance, not based on their physical performance. Sometimes, you know, the campaign said that please kindly take the if it got the pictures in the ballot paper, kindly take the mustache, kindly take the nice girls, because sometimes they have a nice picture with the mustache for men and with the very nice and a full makeup for women. Therefore, sometimes it is what happening in the field. Then we are trying to ask people, please choose them based on their performance, their capability, or their integrity, not based on their physical performance. Because we are trying also to avoid corruption cases, in which corruption cases earlier on I was saying that corruption cases may be rooted from the money politics that has been done during the election. And transitions of democracy, I think someone already asked about that. In my country, actually, and in also in some other country, we are trying to deepening the democracy or consolidating the democracy. However, sometimes the trend of transition is either it is a permanent transition, so from time to time it is on transition all the time, but sometimes also goes beyond goes beyond limit. Therefore, transition from democracy becoming uh, that initiate that ignites by democracy discontent or rollbacks, we can have autocracy, oligarchy, or plutocracy if the transition from democracy is happening. I think Professor Sanjay Roy already mentions about this. Maybe this is also indication happening in many part of the world. And in this case, to improve the electoral processes, as I said earlier, we should base on personal qualification when we try to choose the candidate. We try to choose someone with has a high integrity rather than someone who has access towards money politics. Someone who has expertise, and someone who has managerial skill will be the utmost target one. And we ask political party to have a systematic recruitment, because we do not want someone suddenly jump into the running wagon and becoming so and so in political parties, whereas we don't know who she is or who he is before joining to political party. The assessment and implication to our country, we can say that some parameters of the democratic practices has been done in a comprehensive way, and we should also do some effort to prevent from rollback, such as implementing mechanism to prevent money politics, vote buying, etc. And then what can we do about it? First, I think we could shape knowledge. We could shaping knowledge and practices on democracy. We could actively involve in positive political participation. Earlier on, I was saying on positive and negative participation. And C, becoming members of grassroots democracy activists, democracy educators, lecturers, political NGO activists, or reform-minded actors. And then lastly, we could prevent from violation towards democracy principle. And for my wrap up, I think the agenda for future collaboration between our institution, your country institution or your university and my institution, we could also develop this. First, we could have a scoping study on the scope, identifying the gaps, the weaknesses, and the rollbacks. We could also have a collection of research manuscript and policy brief. We could also create a module based on best democracy practices in our region. We could have training manuals. We could have handbook of democracy oversight. We could also have the handbook of democracy in practice. We could also have a collaboration with Indonesian Political Science Association. To be honest with you, I was traveling a lot in your country, in India. Sorry, I never been to Bangladesh. Later on, maybe Rezaul will going to invite me to Bangladesh. But then in India, I've been to Aizawl, I've been to Amritsar, I've been to New Delhi. Last year, I went to Agra for several times. I went to Mumbai, Jaipur, Chandigarh, and many part of India. So I think I'm part of, how to say, Indian nation could be, because sometimes, the first thing that um, it was really shocking me because on the first day when I arrived in Indian airport in New Delhi, someone called my name, Shri. How come? They know my name, but then I just realized that Shri becoming popular, because if you addressing someone's name in Indian way, then you may add Shri in front of it. And then the second thing that uh, I'm part of the culture when I'm wearing sari or bindi, they said, "Oh, you looks like Indian girl," and it is really make me bless even more. I think that's all that I could say, and basically, I could have I would like to have more discussion on this topic uh, today, and hopefully, yeah. Any inconveniences, I'm so sorry for that, because sometimes the network is not really running well. But again, I will send you the material through chat. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Santos.
Thank you, Dr. Sri Nuryanti, a senior researcher, Indian Institute of Science. Thank you for your beautiful lecture, I will say, and It will attach us also emotionally, and we are thinking that physically we are in Indonesia. And ma'am, we have one question from
Okay.
Amullo Beg. And have you ever realized that election can be won without money? Just a minute.
Okay.
Without money, but honestly and hard work, that type of honesty and hard work. Any example?
Okay. Yeah. This is very idealistic one anyway. I know that election cannot be done without money because when during the time when you hosting a meeting, for example, of course everyone needs you to give them kind of food or token of appreciation. But in this case, not in terms of buying food. Therefore, we really ask the in our country we do have oversight body. The oversight body is the main job is to oversee if there is indications of violations of the law. So if you are captured by the oversight body of election in our country, then maybe later on you will be reported to police, and police can make a case, and your case can be put in the court, and you will be definitely will be sanctioned towards it. So therefore, I think what we are trying to do in my country is trying to reduce the use of money in terms of money politics. But of course, in having the election, in hosting meeting, for example, you need someone to provide you drink or snacks or gifts, just a little bit of gifts, but below what we can characteristic as money politics. Therefore, we trying to ask political party to obey what we call ethical code of political party, and we also have the manual for a political party to recruit the best candidate and systematic way of the candidate within their political party. Therefore, we ask political party to have a contestation inside the party, and then we could have the best. Hopefully, we could have the best of the candidate coming from political party. However, there is also, I think I should let you know that Indonesian Corruption Commission already released report, last year report, for example, that there are more than 600 corruption cases were brought into the surface, and it was done by mostly political leader or legislative actors, MPs, and executive at local level. Therefore, we really ask political party to really obey the ethical code for having a clean and good election. I think
Um,
that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the next question from Mohammad Rezaul Korim, our resource
Okay.
person. He
Okay.
asks, Madam, how far political parties are concerned about ensuring human development index for the people rather gaining party power in South Asia? It's a very beautiful question raised
Okay.
by Mohammad Rezaul Korim.
Yeah. In my country, the political party, usually in political party, they are having school of politics. So political school, how do you say? Political school. For example, one political school or political party, and then they are giving the program, the programmatic program towards the people to interact, to attract and to attract the people to get involved in their political party. And one of the challenge that has been offered by political party is they are trying to have a program, programmatic way to to give aid to small scale uh, household industry, not household economic activities. So basically, they give aid to their followers, to their political party followers, to bring up more on to address more on their economic access. So I think there is a combination of political party program in my country. In one hand they have a political school, but on the other hand they also give aid to the needy one or to the small scale industry. So they are generating uh, combination between good livelihood, economic livelihood, and good political livelihood.
Ma'am, there is a last question that asked by. Just a minute. There are too many congratulations and it's a good lecture. Everyone is saying. There's Amin Sheikh, and he asks us, "Thank you for your magnificent and momentous speech. As you mentioned in defining democracy, referring to quotation of Abraham Lincoln, is democracy is of the people, for the people, by the people. Is democracy going on the maximum presently in the world?"
Yeah, actually, Abraham Lincoln was, I think, more likely on addressing how the principles of democracy should be coming from people, by the people, and also for the people. But this is during a 10 period, then democracy can be done uh, direct way and more in genuine way, I guess. But this time, I know that there are rollbacks and there are challenges towards the implementations of democracy, where many things linkage to each other. Economy can be linkage to democracy. ICT also linkage to democracy, where people in some part of the world trying to use ICT to foster democracy implementation, while on the other hand, some people are trying to use democracy genuinely by the people themselves. So it is it is kind of challenges that we have to face and we have to address on later on. I think the development from what Lincoln said up to nowadays has been very huge variety of that, and I think we are all challenged because of that.
Thank you, ma'am, for tirelessly answering our question.
Thank you.
Hope you will stay well. Thank you on behalf of Birpara College, Department of Sociology and IQC, and from Department of Political Science, Coach Bihar College, IQC. We are thankful to you to be with us for your precious time. Now, I would like